Thanks for choosing us. Now let's start from the central regional capital, Cape Coast, where two persons have sustained various degrees of injuries at the Congress grounds of the National Democratic Congress National Youth and Women's Organizers elections. My colleague Richard Kojoyanko joins us live on the phone with details. Let's understand what triggered the chaos that caused these injuries.
Okay, so firstly, I must say that the police here have had a tough time separating the factions that are involved in this particular election. The first one started immediately after the first exercise that was done. That was the addresses that were given by the national chairman of the party, the regional chairman, and then the national youth organizer. And then the second process was about to begin. That was the election proper, and then chaos erupted. And so there were fisticuffs on the stage. It led to a hold-up. And as we speak, elections are yet to be held. Now, in the course of events, then there were gunshots that were heard outside the main auditorium, outside the new examination center, that is the event venue. And then when we arrived there, we saw two people that were in a pool of blood. According to the eyewitnesses and the police that we spoke to, these were members of the two factions, the National Youth Organizer, the Georgia Pariado faction, and then the other contender, Pujajenfi faction as well. And so they brought the ambulance and then they put the two of them together and then they rushed them to the hospital. We were told that it was as a result of them using chairs and other implements available there to hit themselves. And so we are even told that two more people also sustained some injuries, but their injuries were not as the two of them that were sent to the University of Cape Coast Hospital. And so that is the situation here. Elections are yet to be done. The Electoral Commission, they have set up, everything was done around 2 p.m. and they were waiting for the elections to be done, but the elections are yet to be done. We heard of injunctions that were on some constituencies, and then the National Local Organizing Committee came to address the media, saying that all outstanding issues have been resolved, and in the next 30 minutes, elections will start. We waited for the next 30 minutes, elections did not start.
Interesting. Now, what becomes of the election moving forward? You've been engaging leadership of the party. What have they been saying?
They said that at all costs, the elections would have to be conducted. People have traveled from all corners of the country just to vote for the National Youth Organizer, the National Women Organizer, and then the other aspirants that are contesting the deputy positions. And so at all costs, they will clear all hurdles. So if it means that they have to even leave beyond midnight, they would have to ensure that the elections would be conducted. In fact, some people have already left, but there are a lot of them that are also waiting. They want to see to the end of this exercise.
Well, there are also concerns about security moving forward if they plan to conduct the election today. What's the plan? Are they getting reinforcements from the police? Yes.
At the moment, there have been reinforcements. In fact, the police in their numbers, they are bringing more men to augment those that have been here for the entire day. They've been even changing the people that came, and so they have been replacing the police, the security team that was here in the morning. And so, as for the security concerns, I can tell you that they've been on top of their game, both outside the new examination center and inside the new examination center. Just that it is a matter of election, and so there are surprises that are sprung on them each time, but in each of the times they manage to bring the situations under control. In the case of the clubbing that led to the injuries of the people, in fact, the police had to fire the warning shot before they brought the situation under control.
Thank you very much. Richard Kojoyanko is our correspondent in the Central Region. He's been giving us updates on the NDC's National Youth and Women's Organizers election. What will be keeping an eye on that election process, which they say will still commence today. Moving on, political analyst and activist as well as writer Dr. Arthur Kennedy is questioning why the majority in Parliament walked out during the vote on the censure motion against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Well, according to him, their actions were suspicious. He believes the MPs should have stayed to vote. He spoke on Newsfile on the Joy News channel. There's more in this report.
Dr. Arthur Kennedy, who was speaking on Newsfile, said the majority's action was strange and questioned their fears in participating in the secret voting.
Then it begs the question, is it that apart from the envelopes that were passed and returned, they have received other inducements or pressure or whatever to change their minds? Because it is strange that they did what they did. And not only that, I can't even find an example in history of a majority walking out of chambers. After all, they have the numbers. So if they are against the motion of censure, they can vote against it.
On his part, political risk analyst Dr. Tio Champo expects the MPP MPs not to abandon their earlier decision to have the minister sacked.
Nevertheless, I still think that if you speak to any or many a Ghanaian on the streets of Accra or Kumasi or any other part of the country, it's quite clear that part of the problems and why we are where we are as a country really stems from some of the decisions of the finance minister. And I would expect then the MPP MPs to push that advocacy for the minister to go.
The minority in Parliament says, although they have lost the censure motion against the finance minister, it will now turn the focus on rejecting certain portions of the budget. Al-Hassan Suhini is Member of Parliament for Tamale North.
For now, our focus is on the budget estimates that has been presented by the finance minister.
All right. Thank you.
And we have found that the finance minister, together with his president, are still not in touch with the reality that we are faced with. And so certain aspects of the budget we are against, and we will again manifest our opposition.
Meanwhile, Director of Communications of the NPP, Richard Ahiagba, wonders why there is still a heightened interest for Ken Ofori-Atta to be sacked when he has not committed any illegality. He suspects some people have personal interest in the position of the finance minister.
To say that the finance minister must go. And I'm wondering, what has he done wrong? But people say that he must go. Now, I hear the suggestion that, oh, it's untenable because, in fact, he is making this negotiation. The Minister of Ken Ofori-Atta is not the president of this country. He's negotiating on behalf of the government of Ghana. So whatever agreement he's reached on behalf of the government stands. So those positions just goes to suggest that, is it something against Ken Ofori-Atta that people are interested that he must go? Right? The decisions he takes in the name of the government. So we should move on from that.
Well, the United States government says it will support the approval of Ghana's application for an economic bailout with the International Monetary Fund at the board level. Joy News sources revealed the IMF fund and Ghana are expected to reach a staff-level agreement on the loan deal by Tuesday. A board-level approval remains the only hurdle for Ghana to access the much-needed bailout. Speaking on Foreign Affairs last night, U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Virginia Palmer, revealed that Ghana's request will be supported at the board level by the U.S. government.
And peace building. Given Ghana's current economic crisis, how are you working to expedite that?
Well, the current economic crisis requires IMF assistance. I think that's why those international financial institutions were created. So we've urged the government of Ghana to negotiate with the IMF with urgency, and then as a board member, we'll support those programs. And further to that, we work with Ghanaian business and the Ghanaian government to strengthen the business environment so that Ghana lives up to its international reputation. It's important that problems with contract sanctity, problems with local hiring, problems with corruption don't undermine that. if I'm honest. And I think friends speak honestly to friends. For the $138 million, trying to keep me on point.
I'm interested in that as well.
I was very pleased to be able to announce those additional funding. A lot of that work will focus on agriculture and stimulating support for your agriculture sector, because that, again, is an engine for economic growth. And we do, again, techniques that improve farming for farmers, but we also work with financial institutions, for example, to try to leverage finance for small and medium enterprises in the agriculture and agro-processing sectors. So one of our programs, we think, will unleash something like $270 million of investment in that very important sector.
Well, Trade Minister Alan Tremantin is touting an initiative being pioneered by the governing New Patriotic Party to bridge the involvement of the party in the governance of the country. Speaking to the media in Accra, he said such inputs will help align government's policy in meeting the electoral promise made to the people on the ticket of the party.
This is the first time in our long history that an effort is being made substantively to bridge the gap between the government and the national party. In principle, it is the party that gives birth to a government. And it is my considered opinion that the party must at all material times not just understand what the government seeks to do, but must also provide input in what the government does. And that is why I commend the national executives for initiating this process of interaction with government officials. During our interaction, the national officers also indicated that in the run-up to the parliamentary and presidential primaries, that they intend to print the albums that will be used for these elections. As a party with very strong democratic credentials, I believe that this initiative is also highly commendable.
Away from politics, now to health. With over 34 million COVID-19 vaccines received, Ghana is on the verge of a total breakthrough from the economic crippling pandemic. That's according to Dr. Kwame Amponsah-Chiano, Director of the Expanded Program on Immunization at the Ghana Health Service. Speaking at a press briefing for COVID-19 Vaccination Day, Dr. Chiano said that barring any hatches, Ghana should be out of the woods soon after achieving its target for COVID-19 vaccination. There's more in this report.
The COVID-19 vaccine has been touted as the antidote to hospitalization and death from the COVID-19 virus. Hence, the decision by governments and the WHO to have citizens vaccinated to reduce the adverse impact of the pandemic. However, the vaccination program the world over has been plagued with conspiracy theories as well as cultural and religious beliefs and practices. Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumar-Boaji, cleared the air on the claims about expired vaccines being administered.
We've seen information about expired vaccines. Let me explain. It normally would take years to develop vaccines because you're waiting for stability to see the shelf life. This is a situation where the world had to come up with a vaccine, so we have been given different shelf lives. We continue to check for stability. So as the time approaches and stability is still there, WHO and the FDA extends the vaccines. The current vaccine expired for Pfizer is 15 months and not the 12 months as stated. So this issue that we are administering expired vaccine is not. In 15 months time, if it still remains stable, the World Health Organization and other regulatory bodies won't extend or issue because it's safe.
Director for the Expanded Program on Immunization, Dr. Kwame Amponsah, announced the strides Ghana has made in the vaccination drive and announces measures put in place to consolidate the gains.
So as we go on, we are improving, and we think that we still have a long way to go. We started tracking
Stephen Mercer's report
by month.
read
We
to
did a
you.
lot of fanfare and social mobilization, community mobilization. We had nearly 3 million doses. And in January, which was a bit quieter, we did. Then in February, when the National Vaccination Days started, we saw that we had peaks. And since that, because of pressure of time and response to multiple outbreaks, we haven't been able to do any after the 4th. And so we think that going forward, the strategies of the vaccination days have come to stay. And so we are hopeful that in December, just before the festive season, when we do this, we know we will get as many people as much as possible.
The WHO, led by Dr. Elizabeth Dima, commended the country for the impressive effort and the great numbers of vaccinated individuals over the period.
Let me start by extending our sincere appreciation to the Ministry of Health and the Ghana Health Service for the unwavering commitment shown in deploying COVID-19 vaccines to the people of Ghana, particularly to the most vulnerable groups, and the phased approach extending it to the whole population.
Well, one major challenge facing students and authorities of the WA Senior High School is a lack of an auditorium to take care of over 1,900 students of the school. The school assembly hall, constructed over 40 years ago for 200 students, has now been outnumbered by the maze of students at the school. Concerned about the plight of the students, Speaker of Parliament Alban Sulemana Kingsford Barbing himself and all students of the school has agreed to construct a 2,000-seater capacity auditorium for the school, of whose contract has already been awarded. There's more in this report.
WA Senior High School has long cried for an auditorium, as the current assembly hall can only take 700 students out of a current population of 1,961 students, making it difficult for them to use for their activities. The assembly hall was originally constructed to accommodate 200 students. After several years of appeals and persuasions to the government, benevolent organizations and individuals, there seem to be light at the end of the tunnel. Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, Alban Sulemana Kingsford Barbing, himself an old student of the school, through his social investment fund, has awarded a contract for the construction of 2,000-seater capacity auditorium. Headmaster of WA Senior High School, Adams Idrisu Tedman, was announcing the start of the project at the launch of the 50th anniversary celebration of the school, laced with some challenges they are grappling with.
Award of contract for the construction of a 2,000-seater capacity auditorium, facilitated by the Right Honorable Speaker of Parliament through his SIF, that is Social Investment Fund. The site for this project has already been set, and hopefully before the end of this year, construction will commence fully.
Great WA Secondary School was established by the government of Ghana as a co-educational second cycle institution in 1969-1970 academic year, with 70 students and 5 teachers, headed by the first headmaster, Mr. Gabriel Turi. The school has not changed much 50 years after its existence. It is still the old structures with overpopulated students.
Apart from one dormitory, which has even not been fully handed over to us, all the other dormitories are in a very deplorable state. It's a matter of concern. We also suffer intermittent water. We have 2 mechanized boreholes on campus. But if all the 3 groups are in school, your guess might be right as mine.
You're still watching Joy News Prime with me, Fostina Sarfo. We're taking a quick breather. We'll be back with more to stay. Thanks for staying with us. CEO of Special Group of Companies, Dr. Ernest Sapong, has charged tertiary institutions to equip students with entrepreneurial skills beyond prescribed teaching models. This, he believes, will help graduates obtain the required set skills to penetrate the competitive job market. He was speaking at the 4th graduation ceremony of Heritage Christian College. Joy News' Tracy Asamoah has more in this report.
The World Bank estimates that more than 110,000 youth graduate from universities every year, but due to low economic output, more than 12% of them are unemployed. CEO of Special Group of Companies, Dr. Ernest Sapong, says to reduce unemployment, the youth need to be taught how to create their own businesses and generate income for themselves outside the formal job market.
It is an honor part of this 4th graduation ceremony of Heritage Christian College. It is such a pleasure to share in the emotions filling this auditorium as you who are graduating close this chapter of your life story. Education opens an individual to a world of opportunities, and that is why every parent tries to leave this legacy for their children. Even as a nation, I know we are striving to give every single Ghanaian child of school-going age the chance to access education, to be able to build a future for themselves. Unfortunately, it is not for me to tell you, but you all know that government cannot absorb all of you into the system. Therefore, the need for most of you or some of you to get into entrepreneurship. One of the aims of this institution is to build you into entrepreneurs. And I must applaud the founders and then the University Council for that. Because for them to introduce entrepreneurship into their curriculum is a plus. And I expect most universities to do the same, because we are now in that era.
190 students graduated from Heritage Christian College during their 4th graduation ceremony under the theme Entrepreneurship, a Solution to Economic Security in Africa. The founding president of the college, Dr. Samuel Chumesi Ankra, encouraged graduates to put to use their unique talents.
My dear graduates, if you go home and wait for somebody to employ you, you may be wasting your precious time. If you fail to see the invisible opportunities around you, you may be wasting your God-given opportunities. So I urge you to rewrite your own life story by envisioning, by imagining, by creating in your mind the kind of productive, ethical jobs you are going to do that will bring you good income to take care of yourself and those who need your help. And this leads me to my second point. Believe that you can do the impossible. Number one, see the invisible, what nobody can see. You should be able to see it. Number two, believe that you can do the impossible. And that is another way of saying, take practical steps and move from imagining abstract ideas and act on those ideas. In design thinking terms, it is called ideation. Work your idea into reality without giving up.
Graduating students who performed exceptionally well in their respective programs were awarded. Foster Ejay emerged the overall best student. He described his journey as stressful, but a fulfilling one, and encouraged all continuing students never to give up.
Well, that's it for Joy News Prime. My name is Fostina Sarfo. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. Good evening.